Howdy, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Road to 10,000 Hours. I am your host, Marduk, and this is the little refinery. It's starting to actually come together. I've come to this kind of design plan where I have sort of these shoulders, where then I'm going to have the machines coming off of them in parallel. So I put down a conveyor tube, then I get the junction, then a double junction on each side, and then I'm going to put the hydrogen generators in parallel. I'm going to do 4 generators, which is going to be 800 kilowatts, and then I will power that with 20 solar panels. Each one generating 40 kilowatts will get me to that total 800. So the power of my H2O generators should be negated by my passive energy system. I'm also going to put a large hydrogen tank on here so I can have plenty of fuel sitting around. So my idea is I'll drive out to where I'm mining the ice, fill this sucker full of ice, and just let it process. And then I'll take the truck around to different locales and get some materials and bring those back. I'll probably just go do gold mining and run that up so that I can go to one of the other trade stations and maybe buy a ship or just buy some components. Because, it would be nice to get some gold components, but I don't want to quite tech up to that refinery yet. So, sort of a restriction, a forced restriction on my usual playstyle. But since this is just building, I'm going to turn it over to some music, and I'll see you at the end of it. Oh, hello. It would appear that I am no longer at the base building. What's going on? Why am I pointing at my hydrogen bottle? Oh, I have no hydrogen. I am completely out of fuel. But I'm on a mission. Actually, so at the end of sort of the last clip, I was put a whole bunch of things into production to make them, and then I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to wait a while. Why don't I go do some missions? Great idea. Make some cash while I'm sitting around waiting. Only problem is that I try to go for the highest ones. You know, 50,000 credits, man. That's pretty good. The other one was pretty much the same. But the higher the credits, the farther away they actually are. So it ended up being about 12 kilometers each. And so I flew over to the first one. Then I used my bottle to fly around searching for this stupid probe. I found it. And I looked at it and I was like, I'm doing pretty well. I've got like 40%, maybe a little bit more. I should be fine. Everything will be fine. I'll just go to the next one. I get to the next one. I search around for a couple of minutes. And bam, I'm out of fuel. And I still haven't found the damn probe. So that was great. And now I'm basically searching for it on foot. And since I realized at this point I'm going to have to walk all the way back, I decided that, you know what, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to stay here going around and around in circles, about 700 some meters from this target until I find the darn probe. And then I'm going to go ahead and take the, whatchamacallit, I'm going to do turn on the camera for the walk back. Because I remember I used to play this JRPG a lot when I was a kid called Skies of Arcadia Legends. And it was one of the reasons why I got so deep into sci-fi and spaceships, because in this story you got to kind of play with airships. So I started off with, I have no real idea what fantasy is, to jumping into the deep end of, oh my gosh, I've got an airship with a moonstone cannon and harpoons, and I'm going after giant whales. It was a grand old time. And I remember this bit because I kept on screwing something up, so I'd have to restart the whole game all over once I got to this desert environment. And so there's this period where you have to cross a desert. And there's a character who explains, like, only those who have crossed the desert on foot truly know its length. And so that, whenever I have to do something like that's long distance or long term, I really think about that, about how much effort it takes going the long haul. And it seems silly. It is a silly thing. But you only really know how difficult something is if you actually go for it. You can always imagine how difficult it is from the outside, but you don't really know till you actually do it. And then once you've done it, and once it's done, it becomes memory. And when it becomes memory, it feels easy. It feels, if you're in the wrong frame, it feels like somebody else did it. I think they got a name for it nowadays. They call it that imposter syndrome thing. But if you can keep your head, if you can keep the right frame, you'll actually be like, no, I did it. It was me. It wasn't I didn't just vanish. And I think part of it has to do with the internal critic. Your internal critic looks at you and goes well, I know how much effort you actually put into the thing. And you thought it was a huge thing, so when you accomplished it, it technically wasn't you. I guess that's kind of a weird way to think. It's an obnoxious way to think. So I try to avoid it. I try to just get up and go and take my licks as they come. Yeah, especially like getting lost in the middle of this wilderness looking for this darn probe. So I think I do at least one full circle around this thing before I'm like, all right, it's going to take me 30 minutes to walk the 10 kilometers back. Even with Q, if you press Q, I have it set up so it auto runs. And it's still going to take me forever. So I start to go like, well, if I lose, it's just 50,000 credits. I have plenty of money. Shouldn't be an issue. And then I just kind of let it go. And then, of course, as you'll see here, once I speed things up, on my way back, I find the darn thing. But then I have to spend about 10 minutes going ahead and just walking on foot all the way back. And I liked it. Normally, in Space Engineers, I get to like where I can have a fast ship and I get a spaceship or I get a plane or jet, and I just kind of zoom all over the place. So there's something ephemeral in having to do it on foot. Going around and mining little strips of metal from the asteroids bit by bit. That's kind of what I like about this being a sandbox, is that I get to make my own fun, and I get to determine what is fun. And the mistakes along the way, I don't even know if they're mistakes, maybe missing more than a mistake. They all become part of the adventure. And no two adventures are ever going to be the same. Which is why I get more out of this than something like, Skies of Arcadia. I tried to go back and play it, but I know the story. I know all the treasure chests. I know all the strats to get my characters up to the maximum amount of power in the shortest amount of time. I know the correct dialogue trees for the airship battles. And so really knowing how it's going to work out kind of saps the fun of it. But not knowing, not really understanding, novelty, that's where there's a lot of adventure, a lot of fun. My AC kicked in. I don't know if you guys will be able to hear me, but yeah, I finally reached the point of like, all right, enough's enough. It's time to get out of here. I'm just gonna go ahead and head on back. I lose 50,000 credit. Well, don't lose, but I don't gain. That would be an interesting change. What if, in order to take some of these sort of spot the probe missions, you had to actually put money down? I wonder if that would kind of get people to focus on them a little bit more. Yeah. I don't know if you saw it. I'm looking at the recording going like, yeah, I'm not quite sure how I spotted it either. But there it is.
Critical.
There's the probe. And then of course it just automatically disappears, so you can't even steal the resources. I mean, if that thing had let me hadn't just immediately disappeared, that one actually had the atmospheric thruster. I could have used that and just sort of hoverboarded myself at least a kilometer or two closer. But nope. I gotta walk the whole breadth of this land, the Twin Peaks. And while I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and play some music. And yeah, I'm gonna do that all the way to the outro. And I'll catch you tomorrow for the next bit of the adventure. Cheers.